We've got another press play for you, ladies and gentlemen. This week we are talking about the much critically acclaimed Tax Collector, which let me give you the low here. So this film was, of course, directed by David Ayer, as well as written by Ayer as well, and let me give you the quick synopsis. Tax collector working for a local crime lord finds his family safety compromised when the rival of his boss shows up in LA and upends the business. So that's kind of like the dirty of it. Let's not mince words or waste time. Let's just jump into what we think of the plot of this movie. What do we think of the Tax Collector?
So the plot, obviously, again, main character David plays a tax collector. I love like the build up, right? It kind of tells us who these guys are, what their purpose is, and ultimately like what their job is, what role they play in like the gang drug scene in LA. You get the build up between like the relationship between David and Shia Labeouf, as well as some of the dynamics of his like personal relationships and just their lives as a whole. Obviously the drug game is a violent one. You have to be that, whether even if you're a family man, once you leave the house, you got to become that thing. So this is not like a unique plot, right? This is a movie about gangs and drugs and violence, right? Mm-hmm. I thought in the beginning it had a very what seemed like a unique spin to it, right? Mm. They were taking a unique angle here with the plot, where it's going to focus more on the relationship between these two guys, navigating this violent drug business in LA. For me, the plot ultimately fell short as we get towards the end of the movie, which some things I'll dive into a little bit later on. But on the surface, at the very beginning, the plot looked like this could be something really, really great. And, I gave it a lot of headspace, and it ultimately just didn't meet that. For me, at the end of this, it was just another gang, violent drug movie.
Yeah. I've got a little more specifics than I think, because I think, if you've already watched a movie, hopefully you have by the time you watch this, because we're not talking about the specifics, but there were some things that this movie did up front that was like really fucking good, right? Like, so, or not really, really good, but just interesting, right? So one of the things that I thought was really interesting up front was how they kind of brought politics into it. And what I mean by that is, as they're checking up on this new dude who's like having to pay this tax, this, I guess, a new street dealer or whatever the case is. And he's short on the money that he's supposed to give them. And they're like, what the fuck? So they roll up on him and they're like, yo, where the fuck's the money? And he's like, yo, I couldn't give you the entire thing because I got to pay my daughter's medical bills. Mm-hmm. That's a political, conversation to have. It's like, shit, we don't have health insurance, So it's like, if you're out in these streets doing some wild ass shit, chances are you probably don't have healthcare, or well, you might, I don't know, but you're probably not terribly concerned with healthcare,
Yeah.
And so that brought an aspect into it that I was like, that's pretty interesting. Right. And then also,
wait, I'm sorry. I want to stay there for a second. Why
Sure.
did you think that was political?
Oh,
was it because of like the healthcare thing?
Yeah, because healthcare itself, I think, is a political. Like it's like, okay, if you don't have like a 9 to 5, right? Like, like I guess you would have to like peel back the layers a little bit of like just thinking about it a little bit. But if you don't have a 9 to 5, and a lot of shit you do is off the books, healthcare is tied to employment, right? So like, unless you're working at like fucking Kinko's or some shit, or just employed by some reputable employer, that's really how you get healthcare. Now obviously if you're a drug dealer, one would think you'd have enough money to at least go on the exchanges and like buy yourself some healthcare, because that'd be a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know, for whatever reason, you might not be able to do that, you know, for XYZ reason. So that's why I think it's
okay.
It's political.
I thought I thought it was more of a street politics move where it's like respect, you know, like you can buy respect, right? If you're like, you know, violent and vicious, if you're known and if you're a hitter in the streets or whatever, you can buy that type of respect because people know, like, you know, you're a shooter, right? But I think what he did in this particular scene that we're talking about is he earned the respect of, you know, his you know, that the leader of that gang, and saying that, like, all right, you were short 20K, right? I should kill you, but I also understand that you're a father, your daughter has cancer, you have dialysis. So now you will never betray me again because of what I've done for you.
Yeah, that I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing anything about that.
Gotcha.
I'm just saying that them even bringing that conversation into it about this issue with healthcare, that makes it political.
Yeah.
I don't think that the dynamic between David and the guy was like, you know, that is what it is. That's whatever conversation is whatever conversation. But I think that them introducing the aspect of it, of thinking of like, oh shit, like, yeah, do all these dudes have healthcare? You know,
shit,
like,
don't.
you know, you get shot, you get whatever. Like, it's like, you know, like, what if you get cancer? You can't just be like, yo, if somebody comes stitch me up, like, I just need this doctor to stitch me up on the low. Like, no, motherfucker, you need fucking radiation treatment and shit. Like, you know, what are you doing? So I thought that was interesting. Also, what I thought kind of made it a little bit political is the whole hierarchy of, like, it's just a business at the end of the day, right? Like drug dealing or running a fucking Fortune 500 company. It's all just, you're just running a business. That's it. So, like, you know, I thought it was very interesting that, like, they had like the layers of it of like, okay, you had David, and at first when you get introduced to David, he's like a boss, and you're like, oh shit, David's a boss, right? But then he's got people he's answering to, and he's like trembling as he's talking to them over the phone, like when he's talking to Wizard over the phone, he's like, hey, how's it going?
And you realize David's just a regional manager.
Exactly. You know, he's the assistant to the regional manager. Office reference. But yeah, so those were things that I thought were like interesting about it. It never really at any point hit me that like, oh, this is going to be like a great story. But I was just like, at that point, I was willing to give it a chance. I was like, I'm still riding with you. Things go horribly wrong very quickly. First of all, like the pacing of the movie is strange, you know, and maybe we can talk about this when we talk about the cinematography / like the editing. But the pacing of the movie was kind of all fucked up. The storytelling, the dialogue, it was all just weird and fucked up. Like it was as if like somebody started with 10 great pages and then they didn't know what the fuck to talk about after that. Like,
you know, I feel like that might be the best way to put it, is like you know, the first 10 pages, right? I feel like they sat down for the table read and they read like the beginning 15 minutes of the movie. Then they were like, yo, let's start filming today. And then the rest of the story had not yet been written.
And it's so interesting given that the film was directed by David Ayer, who, you know, he's made some fantastic films, right? Like he made you know, one of the best kind of like, it's not even a buddy cop, but it's like, you know, just like it's just a fucking dope ass movie with two cops involved. End of Watch was one of the best films I've
Michael
seen
Pena
as far as
and
like Jake Gyllenhaal. What a fantastic fucking movie, and he wrote and directed that film, and then he wrote this movie, and it's just like, huh? How the fuck do you go from End of Watch to this? Like, you know,
just do the same thing, not just making drug deals.
Just do the same thing. Now, of course, he did have Suicide Squad in the middle there, so it's like maybe we should have taken that as a hint. But look, I was able to forgive Suicide Squad because it's a superhero movie, so it just has a whole bunch of other shit that goes along with it. But this movie was just like, the dialogue was bad, you know, the plot was just stupid, you know, in large places. I just have random notes here that I took down at random points, and I promise we'll try to get through this quickly. All right. His wife, the worst ride or die ever. And
bad as all hell though. God damn,
right,
she bad.
Right,
I can't even.
But
yikes,
when you need somebody as like a all right.
Yeah,
We need to get
hold
with
it
this
down
shit.
for the family.
Wolf. She was in between crying, in between like, what's going on, David? What's happening?
Yeah.
Like, you see me bloody. Like, what do you mean? What's going on?
Yeah,
Like,
don't try and wipe the blood off my face
the fuck is that
while
gonna
you're
do?
supposed to be driving to get the kids. Fucking drive.
Yeah, she was not the partner.
And that was Alexis,
that
played
you
by
want.
Cinthya Carmona. I mean,
Yeah.
god damn though.
This movie had like a lot of like religious aspects to it, but it wasn't always clear of like why we had that. Like it wasn't always clear of like what is the point of having all this like religious like imagery, as well as just like blatant, they were talking about sort of like demons and all this other stuff. I didn't really. And again, I'm fully willing to accept that I might be stupid and I just might not be knowledgeable about like what they were specifically trying to like hint at, or like what the underlying sort of like premise to all of it was. But
I thought what was interesting about that is how like religion is used on both sides, right? Like if you're, a good everyday church going person, you don't commit any crimes, don't sell any drugs, whatever, you pray to God to protect you and your family, and right, but these drug dealers are also praying to God to protect their drugs and to keep. I remember Conejo was praying and he was like, "Protect me from the bullets of my enemies."
Yeah,
and I'm
like, wait, what? Like you're killing just random
do
people.
we believe in the same God?
Yeah. But so that actually reminds me of a conversation that Creeper as well as David have. So between Shia Labeouf's character and I forget the name of the gentleman who played David, Bobby Soto. Shia LaBeouf is like, man, I want what you have. You got the family, you got this, whatever. And basically he's talking like Shia LaBeouf's character. He's like basically Creeper's saying like, oh yeah, I just do all this fucked up shit, but I still want like everything you have. And David's like, oh no, like you gotta cut all that shit out in order to like live right. And so I thought that was actually weirdly enough good foreboding for like the end, where it's just like David's thinking he's living this clean life, but he's really not living a clean life.
Yeah,
and he ends up losing all those things that he holds precious, that he's basically telling Creeper that, oh, like you gotta like start living right, but it's like you're not living right, so like you don't even deserve all these things by his own standards. You don't even deserve all the things that you're talking about. So I thought that was good, but that was like one thing out of like a trillion things that were terrible about the movie. It was the and I wish I could remember the name of the black the dude who's like the head of like the Crips. Oh man,
who we've seen play this same role in a lot of different movies.
Yeah, wasn't he in Training Day? I'm pretty sure he was in Training Day. Fuck. Whatever. I'll let you try to find his name. But they were the lamest tag team in the world. Like, this dude is, I don't know how old he is. He must be like 50, 60, somewhere years old. He moves like a 70-year-old. David doesn't look like he's ever shot a gun ever, like. They were the lamest tag team I could ever imagine.
His name was Venom, right? I think it was in the movie. I think his name is Brian Martin Ortega, who plays Venom.
I don't know that that's the case. Yeah, I don't think that that's the case.
You don't think he's Venom?
No, he's not Venom. But in any event, it doesn't really even matter. I just wanted to point out how lame they were as a tag team. And then also too, again, these are all just kind of stream of consciousness as I was watching it. If you're David and you're walking into Conejo's like spot and you're holding some sort of automatic gun, how the fuck do you miss when you roll up on them and they don't know you're there?
Oh yeah.
How did you miss
when they're laying in bed and he missed them both?
How?
Yeah.
They're right there.
Listen, these guys are supposed to be shooters too.
No, okay, well he's I guess not supposed to be a shooter, but at the same time, like, but
if you're in this game, you know how to. They said they took down an armored truck, him and Creeper, back in the day. You got.
Yeah, what did you do that day? He didn't do anything that day. He just showed up like at the end, like, yo, that was wild.
That money right there. All right, let's take that.
But anyways, so yeah, he missed them, and I was like, what the fuck? And then also too is like when they were going hand to hand, I was like, are they trying to like what is like what is that Channing Tatum movie where he's like
fight
is it
back or something, or never back down or something like that.
I felt like I was in a fucking Channing Tatum movie because it was like flashbacks to when he was like learning fucking like jitsu. I don't know why I had a brain aneurysm at that exact moment.
Yeah,
but jujitsu or whatever, and it's just like, is this supposed to be like a tough enough challenge or some shit? Like
Yeah.
where he's like flashing back to when he's
I
like
don't know if
grappling
you
with
ever
somebody?
have flashbacks when you're getting, because you got to deal with what's
Yo,
in front of you.
Mollywopped and just having
he was getting his
flashbacks.
face beat in while having this flashback about that
Taekwondo
moment
or
with
some
his
shit.
coach. Yeah, I don't know if
it's some
that's
weird
real.
ass shit. Yeah, it felt like it was like, I don't know if you ever watched the movie Lionheart, but it felt like a scene from like a Lionheart or some shit. And then the other note while I was watching, I was like, this movie's pointless. At one point, I was just like, this movie's pointless. There's no point to this fucking movie. There's nothing here. Like there's like the promise of something a little bit, but then there's just like nothing. And then why were some of the English comments in subtitles? They would.
I didn't have any subtitles.
Oh, no, they had subtitles when they're speaking Spanish. They had to have, otherwise you would have just been lost. Yeah, because you don't know Spanish.
Oh, bro.
All right, okay, all right, whatever.
I speak hablar español.
Nope.
Yep.
You're gonna be extremely offensive. But like some of the English things that they said were in subtitles, and I was like, what? It's English. Just
Well,
like,
maybe
why are you
for
having English
like
in
a Spanish
subtitles?
speaking audience who's also watching this movie.
You're putting English in subtitles in English, and it's just like,
well, if you speak
benefiting
Spanish,
from that?
If you speak Spanish, then you need the English subtitles.
no, because it's like us seeing Spanish subtitles in Spanish. It's like, this doesn't help me because I don't know Spanish.
That is true.
So it's like, what the fuck is the point of that?
Oh shit. Okay, yeah, I got it now. That is
Like,
true.
so like they would be saying something and part of it would be in Spanish, and then they would like speak English, but they would still have the English in the subtitle. I'm like,
yeah, like it should have been
what use is that?
Spanish.
Or either they should have been Spanish, or they should have just not had that part of it in subtitles. But whatever. So anyways, let's move on to our characters. That's enough of me ragging on the plot of the movie and my kind of like random stream of conscious musings from it. But the casting by credit on this is Lindsey Graham as well as Mary Veneru. Who's our runner up? Who's our MVP?
So
If there are
runner up, well, first and foremost, I gotta give hats off to Cinthya Carmona, who played Alexis in this movie.
Okay.
I mean,
time out.
absolutely
Hold up. Stop the presses.
stunning.
Stop the presses.
I had to pause the movie a few times. And
Stop
just be
the
like,
presses.
God damn.
Are you saying that based off of her acting ability?
No, looks
Or-
only. Listen, I'm not going to dress this up, okay? You know what this is. If you're listening to this podcast, you know what this moment here is. Okay, this is you could watch this movie,
You dirtbag.
just her scenes alone on mute. Great movie.
Jesus Christ.
So
All right.
Cinthya Carmona, fucking incredible. I wish her nothing but the best happiness and more success and all those great things. So I have to throw that out there. My runner-up, surprisingly, here is Shia LaBeouf.
Okay.
What I learned about him throughout the making of this film is like he really, really dedicated himself to this role.
Yeah, which is a shame.
All of the tattoos that he got
Yeah. We're real tactics.
were real tattoos, right? I don't know how he does a romantic comedy after this, but not that he
can
does
still
many
do that with
romantic
tattoos,
comedies,
yeah.
But all of the tattoos he got, and he really dedicated himself to like being a part of LA, learning about the LA gangs, and really like kind of embodying this character Creeper.
Were those cauliflower ears real? Like, does he do some fucking like, grappling or some shit?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. He'd have to get
them joints
punched in
were-
the ears because you
Jesus
don't get
Christ.
those. You get those like wrestling, boxing, doing MMA. I don't know if he's done an MMA
I mean, I know
recently
he's
movie.
but I know that he just he's kind of a different dude, so he just does his. He
Yeah,
just
I wouldn't
does
be
the stuff that
surprised.
He does. I don't know.
But I loved learning about how he dedicated himself to like learning this role. And when he, his character in this show, like, or in this movie, I was able to watch him and divorce him from like any other project I've seen from Shia LaBeouf. Like for me, he embodied this character. Maybe the script wasn't that great. Maybe the directing wasn't that great. But for me, Shia LaBeouf, when I'm watching him in this movie, was Creeper.
Well, quick comment on that. What was the use of them like talking him up as like, yo, like one of the first, like literally, basically, like one of the first scenes of the movie is like the dude meeting him and like,
And he
"What
wouldn't
have
even
you
look
heard
him in
about
the
me?"
eyes.
He's like, "What have you heard about me?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Heard you're devil."
Yeah.
And it's just
And we
like,
never got to really see that.
no, and I'm like, how the fuck are you gonna be talking hard shit like that? And like, not one time during the movie do I like really get a sense of like, holy shit, this dude's like crazy. You know, like
The only time we got to see it is that quick scene,
quick flash,
where
which I
he's-
loved. I
where-
loved it.
where he's in the the bodysuit,
Yeah, and he's,
the
like,
like
covered in
hazmat
blood, yeah.
suit, and there's like somebody who's chopped up in the tub, and he's just sitting there smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And you could really tell throughout the whole movie he was like about that shit. Like,
But he was about it, but they never let him be about it. You know,
exactly.
don't talk to me about it. Be about it.
I want
Who
to
said that?
see why they call him Creeper, not
Yeah.
just hear stories about it.
Yeah.
So and again, this is why the movie started off so great, because like you feel like that's coming. Like you feel like, yo, Shia as
I'm about to
Creeper,
see
he's
him
about
tear
to go
somebody
all the way
Yeah.
off, and we
you
never get there.
that, yeah.
But again, for me, he really embodied this character, and like you like the whole movie, I'm watching it, you know, to follow the movie, but I really want to see what Shia does, and
Yeah.
you know, we never get to see that.
Yeah.
So he's my runner-up. The character in this movie who I believed the most, who really like sold me on their character, who I was like, yo, this motherfucker might be coming to wreak havoc, was Jose Conejo Martin, who plays Conejo in this movie. When he came in, I was like, yo, this motherfucker is about that shit. And he really, again, for me, embodied this character, Conejo, who was, I guess, sent by the Mexican cartel to like wreak havoc on the LA drug industry, to completely change the game. His introduction was great. I think how he played the character and embodied the character was great. It felt authentic. It felt real. Every scene we saw him in, from the introduction to the kidnapping of to the Shia Labeouf scene where they where they killed Shia Labeouf, to kidnapping the kids, to the phone conversations, it all felt authentic. So for me, he's got to be my MVP, because he's the only one that felt consistently real and authentic.
Yeah.
Not his acting ability, but his authenticity for me is what made him my.
Glad you say that, because I'm about to shit all over that. No, he was a terrible actor. Like I don't want anybody to come after me. So like,
I had to put that disclaimer on it, as you see the disclaimer. I put that on there.
No, or I wouldn't say he's a terrible actor. I would say that it just, at no point did I like fully bought in. In fact, I thought it was actually kind of comical, like some of his portrayal, and it was, but I want to say it's not his fault, because it was the actual dialogue that I was just like, yo, did a 12-year-old write this? Like who wrote this? Like who signed off on this being the actual dialogue that you use that we were supposed to believe is like authentic, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I thought the dialogue was just terrible. And so I don't know if it was a combination of his delivery of the dialogue, or if it was just the dialogue of itself. I don't know if it was a combination or just
I would have to say it's the dialogue, because his delivery, I feel like if that was the script that he was reading from, the way he delivered it, like he brought it to life.
For me, he
least.
didn't. We and obviously, we're all free to disagree. I would have to respectfully disagree that, that came across as believable. But I'll just quickly move on, because I thought there were a number of actors and actresses in this that were just not great. But I'll just move on.
You better not say nothing about Cinthya Carmona.
I'll just say nothing about her. So my runner-up will have to be George Lopez. I love George Lopez in this movie. I thought it was really different than anything that I've seen George Lopez in. Although I'm sure he's had roles either like these, or he's done something different than just like his kind of like comedy shtick, I'm pretty sure. But this is one of the first times I can remember seeing him being like, oh shit, like, okay, George, like you're doing your thing, And so I would have to say my MVP, he's got to be Shia Labeouf. Like, I think he's the only thing in this movie that like kept me like in it. And when he died, I was just like, all right, that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty much checked out. Like, I don't really care about this anymore, because like it's both his storyline, as far as like, okay, you're just waiting to see him be Creeper. Like, like he's like kind of like this funny guy who's like, who's like mad serious at times when it's time to be serious, but is like chopping it up when it's like, when everybody's just kicking back and chilling. And he's like cracking jokes, doing this or that. So you're just waiting for him to be like, oh shit, when is Creeper gonna show up? Like, when is he gonna like be that dude, that everybody's saying he is, that he gives the presence of, that he is. And they just never let him do that, at any point. He basically goes from being like Creeper to being like just getting his legs banged in by
he's got his legs beat on and his head stomped in. That was pretty much it.
That was a bad ending, and I guess it's like, okay, well, we didn't see that coming, so maybe that was a good thing to have. It's like, oh shit, you're waiting for that payoff and you never get it, so maybe that's like more of a creative thing, but it's just a shame that we never get that. But also his portrayal of the character, I thought was just, it was the most authentic person that I saw in the movie, which is ironic because there's that whole thing about oh, you're not Mexican, Shia Labeouf, so stop pretending that you are. And then in a movie that has
I didn't get that. I didn't think he was like pretending to be Mexican. I felt like he was a white guy who grew up in this like
that's what David Ayer said. So yeah, I thought he was the best part of the movie. I think there's a reason why he's heavily in the trailers, is because it's like there ain't much else here.
Yeah, he's the draw. You know what he really did his best was like when after they had kidnapped, I believe it was after they like killed his wife.
Killed whose wife?
After they killed David's wife. Remember, it was like David. No, you know what? No, it had to have been before that.
Yeah, because that's the Creeper died before.
Oh, so it was after they killed his uncle, after they killed George Lopez, when they were having the sit down at the shop, and Shia LaBeouf was telling him like,
and he had like tears. And
he had tears in his eyes. I was like, yo, Creeper
it's about to go down.
Creeper's coming. Like, and like they had all the hitters right there, and like these motherfuckers are ready to die for you. Like,
and he was like naming them out like one by one. Yeah, I was like, Shia, okay, like
and that's what I really thought. I was like, all right, Creeper's about to come out. We're gonna see Shia in full action. That scene, that like one-on-one dialogue he was having, it was intense, it was raw, he was emotional, tears were in his eyes. What I thought was interesting about that scene was like, here are all, and they were what sicarios, is that what he called them, like hitters, shooters. Sure. They were just having this meeting like at the front of the shop,
that's another thing plot wise where I was just like, yo, there are so many different points in this where it's just like, bruh, you're supposed to be like on the lam. Like, what are you doing? You're just like on fucking Hollywood Boulevard, like, yo, sup? Like, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like,
out in the backyard grilling and shit. Like, all right, guys, so we're gonna go and kill Conejo, who's trying to come over. Do you want yours medium or medium well? Like,
you want cheese? Like,
that's how casual. Oh, I'm vegan. That's how casual it was. I thought that was weird because if this was a real situation,
underground,
they would have been protected.
Burn everything. Like, like that's what
they would have been shooters. Like, they would have been guards on site, shooters on the roof. Like, if this was really about to go down, they wouldn't have been so exposed. And then Conejo just was able to come up, hit him.
He just strode up, like, "What's up, guys?" Like,
and that gate just opened up. They didn't have any. Like, they didn't even have the ring or nest. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it, come on. It's that easy.
Like, at that point, it's like you guys kind of deserve what you got there.
But to your point, Shia did really well in this role, and I thought that scene in particular really he really delivered there.
Yeah. So let's move on to the cinematography. So Salvatore Totino was the cinematographer for the film, and then Jeffrey O'Brien was the editor for the film. And so, about the actual cinematography, look, there was one cut scene, and it was the scene where, we first kind of get to meet Shia LaBeouf's character, and, and he's like, who do you think I am? And he's like, oh, like I can get a devil. And then they do this like cut scene where they're still like, you still kind of hear the audio from the scene we're in, but then you see just like a cut of, see him just dragging somebody with like people standing around.
Yeah.
And he's got like the bodysuit on. And it was just like, oh shit, like that freaked me out for a second. I was like, oh man, like that was really creepy. Like, and I love that. But that was like, stuff like that was like few and far in between. Bruh, there was some egregious editing, like
faux pas here.
Yeah. There's one scene where, so David's talking to his wife about, I think about like leaving or like, what they're going to, like what their plan was. I forget exactly what they're talking about, but like, you could just tell, like, when they do like the reverse shot of like, say like David's talking and the camera's over his shoulder. So it sees the back of his head looking at his wife. He's like not moving. So you could tell he's not saying anything.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is an entire fucking movie, Hollywood movie. This is some rookie shit that's like, have his head moving or something, or like, you know what I mean? Like, so it was just like, and then with the way they edited it was just like very obvious. And it was just like, bruh, like why was that? And maybe that was just like, maybe they had no other option. Maybe they just didn't have like the footage to like cover it. But give me anything else but that, like, so anyways, there are a couple of things like that I thought from a cinematography standpoint that was just like,
yeah. So from my perspective, I don't think they did anything like daring in this movie, like with how they shot it. Most of it was like, I guess, pretty standard. Like there aren't any like super dynamic angles, like any. They did use a good bit of slow motion during like the shootout scenes, which always like add to.
But that was kind of stupid though. Like when they bust in the door and it's just like they rolled in there like the fucking Mod Squad. Like we're just like, oh, you guys are action heroes now?
What could have been a more like dynamic scene, right? Like, and I'm going to do my best to explain like what I was looking for in a scene like that, right? So not only the use of slow motion, but like dynamic camera angles, not necessarily like quick cuts, but like show me the entire, maybe like a camera that pans the entire span of the room to show me both sides of it, like the busting in the door, the the guys inside being alerted to it, the shootout between it, bullets ripping through bodies, and like make it a little bit more gritty, add some more texture to it, like do something a little bit more dynamic than busting the door, shoot up, slow mo scene, quick cut, scene's over. Like I was hoping for something a little bit more dynamic there, and I didn't get that. But to your point, at the opening scene where you hear that guy explaining to Shia like what he's heard about him as Creeper, and they cut back to a scene where he's dragging the body, like something like that, where they have they're taking audio from one scene, they're overlaying it over that flashback. I thought something like I thought that was great. And I was hoping to see more layers and more textures like that throughout the movie with like how they use cinematography. Again, slow-mo shootout scenes are always dope.
Yeah.
What can you do to make it a little bit more dynamic? And I didn't see any of that in this movie.
Yeah.
Not that I really needed to, but like,
it'd have been good to have.
Yeah. Give us a little bit more texture.
Yeah. So let's talk about the soundtrack and the score. Michael Yezerziski? Sure. Was the music by credit on the film. The one thing I have to say about the I think there are a couple of different things I could say, but like just to keep it short, the one thing I could say about the score is whatever song that they used at the beginning of the movie was stupid. It was just dumb because it reminded me of like an 80s B movie, like an 80s B action movie that they just like were just like, all right, let's just copy and paste this from like some like fucking what's a really cheesy action movie from like the 80s, like American Ninja, or like I don't even know what movie that is, but I'm guessing it's a cheesy 80s
sounds
movie.
like it.
Yeah. I don't know, whatever. It was like it reeked of like just cheesy 80s movie that you're just like, why is this the direction you went?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just very fucking strange.
To be honest, I don't even remember the music in this movie.
Yeah.
I guess I was just focused on a few other things. But I feel like in this movie, they had an opportunity to feature like prominent Mexican music, Mexican rap. Prominent.
They did to some degree. Like I remember the most obvious one is like the ending for the end credits.
Yeah.
They I don't know what song it was or what it was exactly, but
I remember the music at the end, and I remember like the car scenes, like some of the like background music. But like the music for me really didn't stand out too much, right? I think it could have been like a larger element to this movie, like again featuring like prominent Mexican hip hop artists. LA artists, the music from what I remember, and again, I'd really have to go back and watch it, and I would go back and watch this movie. Maybe smoke a blunt or something like that. Go back, watch this. Maybe it'll be a little bit more interesting. But the music wasn't as prominent as it could have been. I feel like it could have really been like a character in and of itself, because we all know like LA. Huge music scene. You got like it's a melting pot, right? You got like the black gangs, the Mexican gangs, you got the white gangs, the cops, blah blah blah. It could have been a bigger element, and I didn't get that.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Any extra notes before we depart from the movie?
I think I said it in the beginning where it's like this movie, I put it up here. I put it way up high, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's because of what I learned about the movie prior to seeing it, what I knew about Shia LaBeouf, the story that I knew going into this movie. So I put the movie up there. And whenever you do that, the film either has the capacity or the ability to like meet those expectations, exceed those expectations, or fall very short. The first 15, 20 minutes of this movie, great build up, right? Like I feel like, okay, it's heading towards meeting expectations. Towards the end, this movie really just fell flat. And it was kind of like an underwhelming ending. Overall, I enjoyed it. It just didn't meet my expectations. There are a lot of like missed cues here, and I wouldn't say disappointing, but underwhelming, I guess is how I would end it.
Yeah, I would say that I actually went into this movie thinking that, like, because I was hearing all the reviews for it and then seeing like all the scores that I was getting like on Rotten Tomatoes and all this other stuff, and I was just like, and I like, I love giving shit a chance, especially like everybody like rags on Shia Labeouf, and like they gave him such a hard time for being in this movie, and it was just like, all right, but like it's not his fault the director fucking chose him to be in this movie, and also like he's not trying to act as if he is Mexican, right? Like he's just a dude, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this, a chance. So like, I'm gonna, like, I want to like this movie. You're right. The first 15 minutes, I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. It's not the best, but also it's not the worst,
Yeah.
It went downhill pretty fast. I think it was after they kept kind of milling around where I was like, oh God, you guys, there's no direction here. Like, it's like, it's like when you're about to go out with your boys, right? And like everybody's like, yeah, what are we doing? Yeah, getting hyped, go ahead, start pre-gaming. Okay, where we going? What we doing? And then like
there's no real destination.
Like 20 minutes later, it's like, no, seriously, like, what are we doing? Where we going?
Ain't no girls coming through. Nothing. We're not going nowhere. Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like it starts off great, but then you're just like, all right. Well,
then somebody's like, all right, well, I'm out. And then people slowly start to leave.
Yeah, you're just like, all right, well, that was a big waste. But a side note, Noel Googley, I know you remember him. He's our favorite dude who shows up in these sorts of movies. He played Snoopy. He was the dude who was like at the counter. Sort of like, I think it was like a pawn shop or some shit.
He always plays these guys.
He's in one of my favorite series of all time. He was an Angel. He played, I believe, Hector, and we were always joking that he always plays the role of Hector in like every movie that he's in, but he didn't play it in this movie. So shout out to Noel. Aside from that, man, we press play on The Tax Collector. I guess you should too.
It's only $6.99 on Apple TV, so it's not that big of a risk. It's not like $29.99 for Mulan. So if you don't got $29.99, but you got a few dollars, watch this movie. I don't think you'll be too disappointed.
Or just watch it to come up with your own opinion if you haven't seen it yet. And if you have, let us know in the comment section below. Talk to us about what you felt about The Tax Collector, what you thought about the plot, what you thought about the characters, cinematography, all that good shit, the soundtrack.